Hi everybody, my name is David and this is All Things Sacred. So I have a list of videos that I want to do before I really get to the sheets. Here's the little list. You can see there's a handful of things on there, but I'm not necessarily going to get to them all before. Some of them are other YouTube series like the Yogananda chants or quotes from Ramakrishna's life. But many of these other ones are one-off videos. Some of them might even only be half a video, and I might talk about some topic and then maybe try to extend it to the usual length of my videos, or I might just throw in a second topic if I find that I've kind of concluded what it is that I'm saying on that topic. All of these videos can be applied to the next series coming up, the sheets, because the sheets are about the various layers that we misidentify ourselves with. So almost anything you talk about can fall into that category. And I kind of want to just give people a primer as much as possible and a refresher of everything that I've talked about, kind of make it a little bit more concise and pointed in the direction of the sheath videos. So this video I wanted to call Portable Paradise, Heaven Within You, or Heaven and Hell Within You. And that's what I'm really going to be talking about in this video, is heaven and hell. What are these things? Are they something that we have to be concerned for in the afterlife? Or are they actually something that's a lot more accessible now? And as you can tell by the name of the video, that A Portable Paradise, that it is saying that it's something within you right now. That heaven and hell, and for that matter, the entire spiritual dimension, is not only easily accessible to every individual, whether they have training in meditation and prayer or not, training in silencing the mind or not. That not only is it easily accessible, but everyone is already currently living in their spiritual dimension, even if they don't realize it. This has to do with the perspective and the outlook that an individual has on the world around them. And so I'm going to start this off by saying that anyone who, at least the majority of people, in all honesty, anyone who sees the outside first, who sees the external situation first, without really taking into account the internal perception lens, and they just see the outside world and see this as everything, is going to be living in some sort of purgatory or hell, and not a heaven place. Because the space of heaven is found when one can turn inside and silence the mind and realize that everything's okay. But most people see the external world and everything that's going on, and they believe that this is some horrible landscape, that this is a dreadful place, that they see the play of Maya. And I'm going to talk about this in a later video, how good and bad are actually equivalent in the world around us, but our perception changes that whether we see everything as good or bad. Like if you focus only on the good, you're going to see a lot of good in the world appearing. And if you focus on the bad, you're going to see a lot more bad appearing. And you're going to make your life is going to be either good or bad, dependent on those things, beneficial or harmful, rather. Because good and bad then are kind of seen as just like the ebb and flow of all things. But if you're focusing on the world outside of you, then you're not going to realize all that you have. Even if you are only looking at the world around you, don't really recognize that there's an internal world going on, then, you could have a really good outlook, and you would still be in a purgatory sort of place, because this place, your perception lacks that ability to see this reality as paradise. So even if you have the best outlook, but you're only looking externally, you will never make it into heaven, so to say. Because heaven is a very real place. Now, the heaven I'm talking about is a heaven of pure consciousness, of absolute bliss, of eternity, of infinitude, of omniscience, omnipresence, all the qualities, all the divine qualities of light, love, the path to liberation, the path to moksha. But there are also various heavens for each tradition, and anything that you can think of. A person can live in a heaven of their imagination, and in the world. Or a person can die and go to the heaven that they have spent their effort toward achieving in the afterlife, or hell that they've spent their effort toward achieving. Our time period in the dream of death after this life is really dependent upon our lucidity in the dream of this life. If we can become lucid, so to say, in this dream of life, then when we die, our next dream, our afterlife dream, will, if we're lucid, we'll have a lot more control of where it is that we spend our time between that world, the metaphysical astral realms, and the physical material world. And in addition, how we can use that to come back here in a form that we more so are directed toward of our own will, of our soul's will, and not being forced. Because if we don't become lucid in this life, and we don't get to move on to those, because there are heavens, but there are also these more tangible astral realms that have an effect on this world, and it's kind of, it's not necessarily better or worse to go to one or the other. It's just the soul's development where they end up. But you could do a lot more if you become lucid in this life and then move just to an astral heaven, so to say, instead of one where you're kind of like sequestered, like the Christian heaven, for example, is kind of sequestered in its cloud, if you will. And a lot of souls spend their time in that cloud, and even there are great saintly beings who spent many aeons in heaven, and who have to come back to earth to kind of even transcend beyond these heavens, because those all exist in the mental realm, but above that, or those all exist in the astral realm, but above that is the causal realm, and above that, mental and then causal. To get up there, kind of all division disappears, so there's no, that same heaven is like shared above it. Like if you go down a level, it's still high, that's why I'm showing it above my head, there's all these divisions of the various heavens, but if you go even a step above that, all these various heavens appears just a bright light, and eventually you could follow that to the source of consciousness where you exist with the divine being who is helping to guide all of this. That's the point of meditation. That's, this is a really good segue, because this really is the point of meditation. To go inside, to find this internal realm, because these very real astral and mental realms are accessible by going inside and traversing them. Not just, using the mind to imagine what they look like and what type of beings might be there, what an undifferentiated light might appear as though, we have to really drop the senses which, rule our lives, and quiet our mind so that we can find the true path, the yellow brick road inside of us that, we can actually traverse on. And then, there are tons of, for example, the easiest way to achieve this is by achieving astral projection. But a person might just be laying there in their bed and thinking they're astral projecting, until you can really quiet the mind. Some people have a more natural inclination, but most people need to kind of silence everything that's going on, silence their senses and their mind, really focus inward with a lot of effort to achieve this, whereas others, it could be as quick as that. And, you could still go inside and be just imagining what's going on. It's good to be able to test it. Like, to be able to, if you could astral project and you really believe that you can, practice it and see if you can leave your room where you are currently doing your practice, go to another room of your friend or something in your house, your roommate, and see if you can see what they're doing and find out if that's accurate afterward. That's great practice, because it proves the validity of what you're doing, and it makes it a very scientific process. And this whole thing should be a very scientific process. When we meditate and we're able to silence all this noise of the external world, and and of our internal veils, then we can more readily start to recognize the portable paradise that we carry around with us. When one can access this place of gratitude and joy and bliss within them, then wherever they go, it will be more easy. Like at first, you'll be able to access this in meditation, and you'll be able to see it and be like, wow, I'm just so grateful and so joyous to have life, this gift of life, and to, just be able to experience this play as a whole. But then you'll come out of meditation and, you'll still have like leftover feelings of that. But it won't be, you'll be in the relative again. You'll have had this absolute joy, and then you come back into the relative, and you're like, oh wow, I have to deal with this and that, I'm a person, and I have responsibilities, I'm not just an absolute consciousness, I'm an absolute consciousness experience itself in relativity, so I have to really take my consciousness away from the absolute and focus it on the relativity, which is fine. I did my last video on that topic, that, we should remember and come back to the relative and appreciate it and enjoy it. But if we don't have that internal bliss, we'll be reaching for, something that we don't have. We'll be reaching outside of us, like, to attain that joy, to attain that bliss. And we won't realize that this whole time we're focused in the wrong direction. It really reminds me of my description of the Eight of Cups that I did in the Tarot series. That, we're reaching out for these lights, grab this light or that light, and they end up, we nurture it and it burns us, and we drop it, and then we become despondent, and so we have to turn inward. And eventually we do find this light that we can grab from within ourselves, and we can hold it out in the world around us. And I think actually, just describing that right now, that's the perfect analogy, because it's not necessarily about just, grabbing this true light, bringing it out. It's not about holding this light just inside of us and being like, oh, I found my paradise. Oh, I found my bliss. And I'm going to walk around like this, because I'm not going to let go of my bliss. This is a good thing because it has me focused on divinity. It has me focused on God. So I see the world around me, but it all exists as a dream. And, it doesn't affect me whatsoever. Okay, that's fine, but the step out from that is to be like, oh, I see what I'm supposed to do. I take this light that I found inside of me and I show it to the world. I share it with the world, because there's no differentiation between the absolute quiet place and the seemingly external world of chaos and disruption. And you bring this peace, this light, this bliss, this happiness, this joy, this laughter, these smiles into the world around you, so that you can make this external purgatory, or hell for some people, more like that heaven that exists inside of you. I read a quote recently from Vivekananda. A lot of these things I talk about probably come from quotes of Vivekananda because he is absolutely wonderful. But I saw a quote of his recently concerning how, talking about how one should really apply, there's nothing wrong and it's actually good, it's beneficial to find a goal in life and apply yourself towards that. And I mean, what better goal is there than sharing this heaven with the world around you? Not only making it a portable paradise that you can have for yourself, but a portable paradise for everyone who interacts with you. And you'll find when you start to do this that there are some people in your life, and I've talked about this before, how when you start meditating, your karmas will start burning. This is a perfect example of how that practically looks. Because say you're meditating and you start to find this portable paradise, as I'm calling it, as it has been called by many other people. You start to find this reality, this God-given reality, this joy, this bliss inside of you, and you start to share that with the world around you. Well, there are some people in your life who aren't ready to see the world in that way. They are addicted and in love with their misery, with their unhappiness, with their fear, with their wickedness, with their selfishness. And they don't want to they don't want to do the work that of introspection and retrospection that is necessary for them to quiet the mind. Because you will find when you go into meditation, paradise that I'm talking about, there are going to be blockages. There is going to be a veil of guilt. There's going to be a veil of anger and a veil of fear and a veil of self-doubt. And you're going to need to be able to look at these things directly. You can't just quiet them. You can't just make them disappear. You have to be able to look at them and transmute them into a better quality, something that's more useful, something that, you can be used as fuel. That's what you need to do. You need to take these veils and you need to, crumple up the cloth and throw it into the fire of your heart. Now that you can kind of see the little flame beyond it, you need to kind of push these veils into that flame. I'm using tons of mixed metaphors today. I'm not really sure why, but and so that you can, so that they can feed the real you, and that process. Even though with these metaphors, it's making it sound like, I have guilt. I don't need to be guilty. It can be that easy, and as you start to transmute certain qualities, it'll roll if you keep with it. Keep that momentum going, and you will bust through that wall of your own self-doubt and fear. But the process doesn't start out easy. It starts out rather difficult because it's uncomfortable. And the whole reason why we have these veils, why we build this tower, like the tarot card, the tower, is because we want to be comfortable. We want our senses to be satisfied, and we want to feel good. But we need to recognize that this isn't all about sensations, that our senses can't rule us, that taking this portal paradise around doesn't necessarily mean that we're always going to feel good. It just means that we're going to be able to see the beauty and joy and bliss of life. Sometimes we'll be uncomfortable. We'll get sick and we'll get hurt, and our loved ones will die, and we will die. And, we will suffer the pains and sorrows of the world around us. But because we can see the place of it all, the purpose of it all, then paradise continues to reign. Yeah, so that's I've said a lot on this topic before, and I think I've said a lot right now. To talk about the other side a little bit, just even though I touched on it at the beginning, there's a portable hell not most, because again, I'll even talk about it. If you see the good in the world, you'll realize there's more and more good than you thought, and if you see the bad in the world, you'll realize there's more and more bad than you thought. The only reason for this working on both sides is because there's more of the world than you thought. But it's really 50-50. It's like so the entire universe is an ocean, and the highs are good and the lows are bad, but since it's all one ocean, whenever there's a high, it creates a equal low, and vice versa. And so it's always stabilizing itself. There's an equilibrium throughout the entire cosmos, neither heaven nor hell. But there are many people out there, just like there are many people on the other hand too, who are going around and attempting to share their hell with you. They don't want to see the world, they don't want to see others achieving a heaven-like place, because it makes them fearful. It forces them to look inside, and people coming in interaction with those who are sharing a heaven-like world, who want to share a hell-like world with you, will do everything they can to block this vision. They will either, excommunicate this person who's sharing heaven from their life, which is a good thing for both parties possibly, or they will do all they can to desperately focus on the world around them so that they don't have to deal with their internal struggle, or problems is why I can do that, but I don't need that for internal issues, for their internal world. They don't want to face up to themselves. And I'm sorry, but that is the only way that you are going to find real gratitude, real peace, real happiness, real well-being, is by dealing with that shadow self, dealing with your projections. Stop being so concerned with what's going on outside of you. I mean, be responsible and, live within the world, but really start to, be better. Start to be more moral. I saw another quote from Vivekananda about, it's only the coward who lies. It's only the coward who sins, who acts immorally. Be courageous. Be moral. And that's the thing. This whole video explains that. How if you are if you are a pessimist and a misanthrope, you're more, and you're out there and you're just, taking part in the negativity of the world, you're a coward. You're too afraid to look at yourself. You're too afraid to deal with your internal life. Turn around, fix your mind, fix your heart. Turn it around, be brave, be strong, be a symbol of what humanity is supposed to be, and overcome your minor struggles. And stop focusing, forget about the world, so that you can make the world a brighter and better place. Thank you all. Have a great night. I'll be doing another video here soon. And take care.